that conflict, but what about when it comes to after the American Revolution? What is our form of government? Okay, very good. Articles of Confederation. Articles of Confederation. Okay? And again, if you jump straight to Constitution and everything, you definitely don't get the Articles of Confederation. The Articles of Confederation was all about politically, we wanted to remain what?
Independent.
Did we want a king? No. Okay, we wanted independence. We wanted this sense of freedom. I just saw another truck in Lakeside with a big sticker that said freedom. And I'm like, there you go. That's what America's about, okay? Freedom. But there's always this, like, any of you seen the movie Princess Bride?
Yes.
Remember Amigo Dentoyo? I don't think you know what that means. You know that word means or something like that? Yeah, something like that. So it's always funny that, like, we as Americans, we define what freedom means to us, right? Just like they did back then. We talked about Constitution. So the Articles of Confederation, was it strong or weak? Okay, it was weak. Okay, so Constitution and then kind of Articles of Confederation versus Constitution. And Constitution wanted the federal government to be strong, right? So strong Fed government, right? Then when it comes to the first party system, who were the big two names?
Federalist, Anti-Federalist.
Okay, Federalist, Anti-Federalist, sure. Okay, but who's the big Anti-Federalist? Okay, so we have Jefferson versus, and if you've seen the play, it's really Hamilton. Yes, Adams, because he's kind of our second president and everything, but Adams is not as vocal and as volatile as Hamilton. Hamilton, like, he's kind of nuts, right? So there we go. Jeff versus Ham. Let's see, what else? Cool. When it comes to work exchange technology, before the American Revolution, what was that term that we talked about? Where the English crown, doesn't really focus way too much on, they could just kind of like let us be type of thing. As long as we make money, okay, it's salutary neglect, right? Okay, so Britain, I would say ends policy of salutary neglect, okay? Kind of ending that policy of salutary neglect because they had what big war that had happened? The French Indian War, and they needed to pay for everything. So they kind of end this salutary neglect. It's kind of like when you guys were in junior high, your parents didn't really, or maybe maybe freshman, sophomore year, your parents didn't really get on your case. But now that it's college is on the line, your parents are super maybe in your face type of thing. Okay. And making you go to college fairs and everything. No, just kidding. Is this being recorded? Oops. When it comes to salutary neglect, the British ends policy of salutary neglect. Great Britain is controlling, right? Our goods shipping. Even our war policy, controlling goods, shipping, even war policies, okay? Who we can have a war with and who we can't, that's big. When it comes to institutions of labor, what was a big institution of labor back then? Okay, agriculture, but what to get agriculture? You gotta say it with a southern accent. Slavery. Okay? Yes, you have slavery. Okay? Not to minimize or to make fun of or anything like that. But you have slavery. In South, But what invention really with work exchange technology? Very good, cotton gin. So by 1800, you have cotton gin or cotton engine, right? In South, cotton engine really makes his king cotton. Okay, that's good. Great. So when we look at culture, what are some things that we think about when it comes to culture? Culture. Okay, there's a slave culture.
Subsistence farming?
Okay, subsistence farming. I would say that starts to kind of I would say that's a little bit more of era 2, but that's a great term. Okay? I would say enlightenment, right? Enlightenment. Okay? Enlightenment is that theory that really, it's kind of like the new cool thing to believe. It's kind of like, on YouTube, when YouTube came out, it was the coolest thing in the world to be atheist. And then atheists started realizing, like 5 years ago, wait a second. If everybody's atheist, then it's not, cool to be atheist anymore. And you actually started having those dialogues happening within the atheist community, wait a second, we're not going to be cool anymore, because everybody's atheist now. So that was kind of like enlightenment. It was kind of that new, way of hey, we're kind of better than you because we're so enlightened. We're not victim to the Roman Catholic Church or the Anglican Church and things like that. Human reason is everything. I know that most people in America don't like me to say this, but I think enlightenment affected the American Revolution more than religion did. Yes, religion did, especially with, the First Great Awakening. It really got people independently thinking and everything, but it's definitely enlightenment. Missed it. What about women? What about women? You said, what about women during this time period? What's the irony?
They weren't.
He just baptized himself. He's his own prophet and priest.
I was going to pay for him, actually.
Wait, can a pastor baptize himself?
Women. That's probably what a lot of high church people think that Southern Baptists do. They probably think that oh, you just dunk yourself, don't you?
But can you?
Not the question isn't can, but why would you want to? That's the real question. All right, so let's focus. When it comes to women during the American Revolution, okay. So, did women play a part in the American Revolution? Yeah. Women played part in Rev, but not as citizens, right? So you have women like Abigail Adams, reminding Adams, remember the ladies. The ladies did a lot of things during the American Revolution. A lot of times you think of oh yeah, they just sewed the American flag. That's what the ladies did. Oh, big deal. No, grassroots movement. I mean, we really forget that even though it's the men dying on the battlefield generally, it's the women really getting this patriotic spirit. Really whenever there is a movement in America, a lot of times it's women really stirring the pot, so to speak. It's kind of I'm thinking of what was that Mary Poppins with the mom that was the suffragist and everything. Kind of getting involved, getting impassioned, whereas men usually want the status quo. It's women who see hey, this could change. So good. When it comes to, let's see. Oops. Or actually, I think I wanted to. Okay, there you go. When it comes to migration, Did I do this again? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 5, 6, 7. Culture.
This won't be recording.
I believe so.
What do you mean?
Migration. Geography. Oh, okay, gotcha. Well, we're good. Okay, it's down there. Okay, so when it comes to migration, what do we have when it comes to migration? How are people migrating?
To America.
Ships from Britain.
I think that because we're on era 3, you guys are giving me a lot of era 2.
I think it's Irish.
So when it comes to this, you have kind of this push westward. Okay, this push across the Appalachian Mountains into the Ohio, right? Push westward into Ohio Valley, and we always talked about, who wants to move to Ohio in the winter. But, it was this lush place during the summer, the Ohio Valley, which is really kind of the Midwest. So you have a lot of that continuing into the western frontier. Is there a continued importation of slaves?
I mean, yeah.
Yes, okay, continued importation of slaves. 1808 hasn't happened yet, so you still have those slaves being imported. But then for geography, when it comes to land in the east, is it readily available?
No.
Not really. So that's why they push westward, because lands in east, not readily available anymore. Okay, it's kind of this end of freely available land in the east, right? No, that's weird. All right, readily. Okay, that's kind of weird spelling. All right, so the land, so there's kind of that push westward. And actually, when it comes to geography during this time period, you kind of have these coastal elites versus backwoods farmers. Bless you. Okay, so you got these coastal elites that just think they're so much more enlightened, and you have these, West Virginia backwoods farmers.
Was it the yeoman farmer?
So great question on yeoman farmers and everything. Definitely that can kind of fit in this time period. That's the Thomas Jefferson, independent landowner or independent farmer. When it comes to slavery, did most slaves live on huge plantations? It's actually a myth that they did. Okay, we always think of the South as just huge plantations everywhere. Everybody had a huge plantation. And actually, even though plantations would have those huge plantations that had 50 to 100 slaves, it was usually more common to have 1 or 2 slaves, okay, and to be an independent farmer, okay, to not have this huge, thing. And that's really what America kind of became about, is a small business owner. So whenever you have elections, you have presidents, do the presidents, vocally say, I want corporations, I'm going to support corporations? No, they say, I'm going to support the small business owners, because that's the American way, ladies and gentlemen. These small entrepreneurs, that's the American way. So if any of your parents own a business of less than 50, less than 30 employees, that's kind of that small business, okay? And that's kind of the American way. These large corporations don't really happen until later on, okay? So fantastic. When it comes to geography, a lot of times that's a hard one for us to remember. But then we have WOR It's not WAR like a lot of you guys were putting on your note cards forever, okay? It's America in the world, not war, okay? So America in the world. So what are some things happening from 1754 to 1800 with America in the world? I would say that's a little bit premature, okay? That's super soon, okay? Are we emerging as independent?
Yes.
Okay, so we got this emergence as independent, okay? We also,
Wasn't that many war against France?
well, that was the XYZ affair, the quasi-war. We'll get to that with the next era, kind of more of Jefferson Manifest Destiny, even though that's Adams. But the alliance with who helps us win the American Revolution?
France.
Okay, alliance with France during Revolution, but that worries some Americans. Okay, there's some Americans that are worried by this French alliance. Why?
Because we're making allies.
Okay, making allies, which kind of goes against
Washington.
Washington's belief in us being independent. Okay, when you start allying with other countries, then you're brought into their own wars.
And they were doing the execution thing.
Okay, so once the French Revolution starts, that becomes very troublesome, right? Very worrisome, because we have this French Revolution, Robespierre, and the beheadings and everything, the storming of the Bastille, red, da 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 da, black, da 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 da. Anybody? Les Mis? No, Les Mis fans? You're like, well, Mr. Mulley, when you actually sing the words, it's a little bit easier. But Les Mis is phenomenal. I'm not sure which Les Mis is my favorite. I would have to say probably Russell Crowe, because I like Hugh Jackman so much, just like everybody else in America. But it's like not anything new.
Have you seen both of the Les Miserables movies?
I have seen, yeah. I've seen a couple of times the guy who plays in Taken, Liam Neeson.
Okay, yeah.
With Jeffrey Rush, who plays
The guy in the Pirates.
the Pirates movies. Yeah.
Have you seen the newer one?
Well, that's the Hugh Jackman one, right? Is there an even newer one?
No, that's
Okay.
Which one?
It's like every 10 years they make a new one. Speaking of new one, what's up, Elijah?
Which one is it like? Oh.
Yeah, but because I watched the other one first a couple times, I do like some things about that one. There's just not as good of music, in my opinion. So let's look at era 4 before we take a break. You haven't seen Les Mis? Wow. You are a thespian and you have not seen Les Mis. Wow, this is sacrilege. Wow. All right, so we have 1800 to 1848. So this is the Jefferson Manifest Destiny, pre-Civil War, right? So when it comes to national identity, what's America's identity during this time period?
Nationalism.
Yeah,
They have a big, they're big in the manifesto.
So we would say nationalism is fractured, good movie, by sectional identity. No, we're not saying sexual, okay? Sectional, ladies and gentlemen, sections, okay? That you're a part of a sect, okay? So nationalism, this like strong nationalism. What war did we engage in?
French Indian.
That there was a lot of nationalism. War of 1812, very good. During the War of 1812, there was so much nationalism that the Federalist Party ended up dying, which is ironic, because you would think the Federalist Party would be this nationalistic party, but in truth, it wasn't. So, War of 1812, this nationalism is really strong, but that's really kind of fractured by this sectional identity. When we're saying sectionalism, can somebody explain what sectionalism means?
Oh.
Yes.
It's like two sides being divided off of like one thing, like it has to be this way or it has to be that way.
Good. Okay.
Like regional?
Today we call it tribalism. Okay, regional. What regions are we talking about?
South.
North, south, east, west.
Very good. And I'm glad that you didn't stop at just north versus south, because a lot of us remember that. There was a whole war based on north versus south. We oftentimes forget of east versus west. The people of the east thought they were so much better than us West Coast people, okay? Which they were kind of more advanced. But moving out west, that frontier and everything, that woodsmen, if you will, the trappers out west, the Oregon trails, that starts during this time period, okay?
I'd like to meet him.
So when it comes to Native Americans, do we cooperate with them? Do we exclude them? Okay, there were attempts to cooperate, but generally exclude Native Americans. Okay, definitely an exclusion of Native Americans, especially we see that with Jackson, right? But when it comes to politics. We talked about this last class, but this Jacksonian democracy.
Oh, yes.
Somebody tell me, what does Jacksonian democracy mean? What does Jacksonian democracy mean? White, male, white male suffrage. Okay? The white male suffrage. You no longer need to own what? Land. Okay? So that's kind of that Jacksonian democracy that becomes really good, really big with politics, right? And then in the new territories, how do we view slavery in the new territories?
Don't want to expand it.
Slavery in new territories is in conflict between North and South.
Yellow battery.
That is true.
Air.
Between North and South.
I'm not plugging in. If you do not plug it in,
Any other politics? Goodness me.
Do you have a tiny lesson?
What about the second party system? Second party. Okay, so we have the Democrats, who are the former Democratic Republicans. So we have Democrats versus who? Whigs. Very good. The Federalist Party had died because of the War of 1812. Remember that the Federalists said, hey, the Federalists are more pro-British. And the Democratic Republicans are like, what? Britain? We just fought them. But the Federalists are like, no, but they're strong. We need them. We can have strength with them because the Federalists are all about strength. They don't care as much about this, freedom and passion and everything. That's Thomas Jefferson. Hamilton is more logical. Ladies and gentlemen, I know that you don't like me saying this, but it's kind of true. If you're a Federalist, you think with your head, like Alexander Hamilton. Okay? If you're a Democratic Republican, you feel with your heart. Okay? So it made sense for the Democratic Republicans to side with France and to hate Britain. And it made sense for the Federalists to side with Britain and hate France. And so when we went to war with Britain in the War of 1812, that was all about the Democratic Republicans being more willing to fight Britain. Well, the Federalists were said no. But then after the war, the Federalists were seen as losers because they didn't support the war, right? And so then they had to turn to the Whigs. They had to rebrand themselves. All right, but what about work exchange technology during this time period? Okay, good. We kind of covered this last time. We have the steam power railroads, right? Do we have the national road? Now, we can list all these facts, and you totally miss the point. Why was all of this, like new transportation and new ways, so important?
Connecting both.
Okay, good. Connecting the west to the east, good. But why is that important?
Trade and commerce.
For trade. Okay. Now you might say to yourself, we already had trade with the east, the East Coast with the rest of the world. No, this is all about Americans independently. Ladies and gentlemen, whenever you think about America, you always think of America as a whole. That's wrong. E pluribus unum, out of many one. We are individuals. We are only as strong as our individuals are strong. If our individuals stop being entrepreneurs, we just turn communist, okay, and we fail, okay? But as we are independent, okay, ladies and gentlemen, that was the whole Athenian thing. That was the whole Spartan thing. That was even the Roman thing. 90% of Romans were farmers. But you're like, wait a second, I thought they were warriors. Well, Mars was the god of war, but also the god of agriculture. Very good. Okay. Somebody remembers world history. Okay, and that's because Rome was kind of this prototype of America gone wrong, where it was this individual, patrician, right? Plebeians were the lower class, the patricians were the higher class. Something like that. I remember. It's been a while since I've taught world history. So when it comes to these, it's expanding opportunity, expanding trade for small farmers out west. Okay? We could mention a bunch of others like the telegraph, cities. We also have the emergence of factories. And what was that factory that employed young female workers? The Lowell system, right? Lowell Mills. Okay. Employ women. Okay? Or ladies. Okay? Does slavery continue to grow?
No.
Slavery grows. What about Hamilton's bank? Is there conflict over the Bank of the U.S.? Conflict over Bank of the U.S. The BOTUS, okay? Bank of the U.S.
Was that not the National Bank?
That was the National Bank, okay? The Bank of the U.S. is the National Bank. And ladies and gentlemen, is the National Bank a private bank? The Bank of the United States is a private bank, okay? Now you might say to yourself, Mr. Malumbi, what's the purpose of a bank? I mean, why doesn't America just print money and everything? Well, the purpose of a bank is to have people loan America money, and America uses that money. Ladies and gentlemen, when we go to war, when we build new things, America needs money. Where do we get the money from? You, the people. From the rest of the world. Okay? So they put their money into the bank for a loan to the U.S. government. That's how the bank works. Okay? It is just the bank that the United States of America uses. The United States of America does not use Chase Bank, thankfully, because J.P. Morgan would be even richer, okay? More powerful. America, the United States of America, the president, the Congress does not use Wells Fargo, okay? They don't even use U.S. Bank, okay? Even though it sounds like it. Okay, they use the National Bank, the Bank of the United States. Okay? That's the bank that they use. Culture. What do we have during this time period? Okay, we have the Second Great Awakening, right? With the Second Great Awakening, it led to a lot of reform movements.
Sounds like we did a DBQ on this.
Right? Exactly. Okay? Exactly. Leads to reform movements. Because, ladies and gentlemen, during the Second Great Awakening, did most people think Jesus was coming back?
Yes.
Yes, they did. Ladies and gentlemen, the Mormons were very convinced that Jesus was coming back. So they needed to have a lot of children. Because there's a lot of spirit children that don't have bodies yet, okay, that need to be birthed. Okay? The Jehovah's Witness started knocking on doors during this time period because they needed 144,000 Jehovah's Witness. Newsflash, they have millions of Jehovah's Witness now. So now they've come up with a belief that says there's only 144 true Jehovah's Witness. You just don't know if you're one of them. Okay? And I've actually been to a Jehovah's Witness service because during Easter, speaking of Easter,
Hello.
what's happening?
APUSH review.
Guess what we're doing?
Nice. Good for you.
And I'm such an idiot to do AP Psychology this year too. So I get 4 review sessions, not just 2. It's not fun.
Hey, at least you're doing them.
Right?
You got good food here, good?
Yeah, from the department.
Right.
Of course.
Yeah, I'm here being a dad.
Yeah, you're putting up posters.
Well, I'm just here.
Yeah.
Can we see that?
Yeah.
Oh, that's legit.
Yo.
Dude, if he doesn't win.
Oh yeah, he did a video.
I mean, I know that he got skunked his freshman year.
There's other stuff dropping there too.
Scan the QR
Oh, no, yeah, he can do all the
Yeah,
dude.
Yeah, I saw it. I walked by as he was making it.
Oh my God.
You get it?
Yeah, I got it.
I'm here campaigning for Diego. I just came to say hi.
That's
I was not
amazing.
introducing you.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
sure. This guy's
I know.
Pure Hustle Podcast, everyone. Pure Hustle
Anyways,
Podcast.
you guys here at APUSH review, do exactly what the exam wants. Don't.
During review, watch it during. Or
Anyways, I'm gonna go. I just started calling and wanted to say hi. Do what the exam wants you to do. That's all I'm gonna tell you. Do it. All right, goodbye.
Did you hear that?
Oh yeah.
Don't be stupid. Do what the rubric wants you to do. Okay?
So.
All right. So, you guys can watch the video during our break. We'll have that in a few minutes. But when we're talking about culture, that was kind of funny. I should have said, speaking of Jehovah's Witness, because he knocked on our door. Dang it! Dang it!
No, this opportunity.
When it's off, I know. I hate this. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, what you guys don't realize is that Second Great Awakening, everybody thought Jesus was coming back. That's why the Seventh-day Adventists were like, hey, we're going to worship on Saturday because Jesus is going to be more thankful because we worship on Saturday instead of Sunday. So there was a lot of deconstruction going on and a lot of people thinking that Jesus was coming back. So they wanted to make America better. Make America more moral. Stop drinking alcohol, America. Because that's the problem of sin, right? Wrong, okay? So that was the Second Great Awakening, led to a lot of reform movements, a lot of perfectionism. Everybody had to be more moral and more perfect, otherwise Jesus wasn't going to come. So you have the women's suffrage, you have abolition, you have temperance, you have prisms, okay? You also have the cult of domesticity. Domesticity. I spelled it wrong. Domesticity. Domestics. Domesticity. There we go. There we go. Okay. Cult of domesticity, also known as Republican motherhood. Okay, can somebody remind me, what is cult of domesticity? Yes, Sam.
Wasn't it just like that women would be employed in their households basically and like have the role of teaching their kids?
Yeah. Okay, good. So before this Second Great Awakening, before the industry, before the factories, families worked at home and they worked together and there was a little bit more harmony at home. But then men are going off to work and women are staying home with the kids, teaching the kids to be more moral, to be more democratic, to be more American. They become the moral guardians of the family. Bless you. Migration. What was migration all about? Push westward. So again, westward expansion. Westward expansion. So we have the Trail of Tears. Remember that? Of Tears. Okay. What about slavery? We have the end of the international slave trade, but that equals growth of internal slave trade. Okay, exactly. So when they thought that they could, basically compromise with slavery. And this is how compromises always work. There's unintended consequences, ladies and gentlemen. My favorite thing ever is unintended consequences. If I can go down as a sounding board against unintended consequences, that's what I would love to do. Is to always be that pessimistic person that nobody wants to listen to because I'm remembering, hey, this thing could happen. Okay? And they're like, you're dumb. Let's burn him at the stake. And then that thing happened. And they're like, now I'm going to turn you into a saint, because we burned you at the stake. But ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to unintended consequences, we ended the slave trade internationally coming into America, but then that heightened the reliance on slaves in America because the value was heightened. What about geography? What does geography look like? Do we have expansion of cotton?
Land.
Expansion of cotton, land. That's right.
You don't have Texas yet?
We have manifest destiny.
Louisiana Purchase.
What was the famous? We had Louisiana Purchase. That's good. What state becomes a state and it's controversial because of slavery? Texas. Texas statehood. Okay. Texas statehood. So again, ladies and gentlemen, I hate to break it to you. I know that you want Manifest Destiny to be about this, America becoming 50 states and us doing the right thing. Okay? And a lot of times America does do the right thing. But I hate to break it to you. Manifest Destiny usually is a bunch of crap. Now, I'm not saying that. Lincoln is saying that. Abraham Lincoln was against the annexation of Texas because he knew that it would turn into a slave state. He knew that Manifest Destiny was all about expanding America to expand slavery. Okay, there were some. You're right. There's some who want to expand America because, this idea of America is a positive thing. But it's only positive if everybody gets to experience it. And so for blacks not to experience this idea of America, that's tragic. Okay, and so Manifest Destiny is all about expanding slavery. You need to remember that. Okay, and it's not just Lincoln saying that, Mr. Maloney saying that, it's also Henry David Thoreau saying that. Wasn't he thrown in jail because of that?
He was still running. Nolan, funny guy. I'm good.
Mr. Frost, explain that episode to me. You were spouting off some history.
Henry David Thoreau did not support the Spanish-American War, so he just didn't pay his taxes.
Exactly. And that's how they got him, because he didn't pay his taxes. But why did he not support the Mexican-American War? Because it expanded slavery. That was the big reason. So Mexican-American War was about expanding slavery too. Again, I hate to break it to you, there were a lot of good people and a lot of other good reasons, but the main one was, I hate to break it to you, but expanding slavery. Then we get to America and the world. Okay, we have War of 1812 with Britain. Okay, ends British presence in America. Okay, ends British presence in America. So Native Americans, their hopes of prevailing is ended too. We also have the Mexican American War, over territory and slavery. All right.